Good morning, students. Today we will see the poem written by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. This is a poem published in 1798, and this poem is based on a dream of S.T. Coleridge friend. Whenever we see, the poem is written in a ballad form and it is divided into seven parts. So it is one of the longest poem written by the Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And whenever we think about the theme of this poem, it has many scattering references to outdated beliefs and practices. So it is very different form of the works and many other work rather than the romantic poets. So there are so many contradictory themes we find in this poem, contradictory elements and irrelevant data in this poem, and sometimes the poet hides the various aspects in this poem. Such type of a poem today we will see, and now I present the poem in front of you by the PowerPoint presentation. So students, we will start the poem by the help of PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
Dear students, now we will start the actual poem written by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. It is a poem for our syllabus in the paper 6th, Literature in English, 1750 to 19. Now we see the information about the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge. He was born on 21st October 1772 and died 25th July 1834. Whenever we see his information, he was an English poet, literary critic, and philosopher who, with his contemporary friend William Wordsworth, was the founder of Romantic movement in English or in England and a member of Lake Poets. He wrote many famous poems, particularly the poem which now we learn, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, and second one is the Kubla Khan. They are the two most famous poems written by S.T. Coleridge. As well as the major prose work written by him is Biographia Literaria. His critical work, especially on Shakespeare, was highly influential and he helped introduce German idealist philosopher to English speaking culture. Coleridge coined many familiar words and phrases, including suspension of disbelief. He was a major influence on Emerson. So, whenever we think about the whole information related to the poet, he was one of the great English poets, and we learn the poem The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And now we see the information about this poem. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. Originally, the name written by S.T. Coleridge is The Rime of the Ancient, Ancient, Ancient Mariner. This is the previous name or original name. But in various next edition, the S.T. Coleridge changed the name. This is one of the longest major poem, and it is written in 1797-98 and published in 1798 in the first edition of lyrical ballads. It is a form written form in a lyrical ballads. Modern edition use a revised version printed in 1817 that featured a gloss along with the other poems in lyrical ballads. It was a single shift to modern poetry and the beginning of British Romantic literature because it is an era which started by the British Romantic literature. Now, before we learn and know the information of the poem, first we understand what is the structure of this poem. The poem, the rhyme pattern of this poem is ABCB or ABAB. Each stanza is made up of four lines, therefore it is a quartet or quartet. This is the traditional structure of popular genre known as a ballad. It is written in a ballad form. First we understand it is written in a ballad form. And the rhyme is a literary ballad and contains the figure of the traditional ballads. So it is a traditional poem, so it is written in a traditional ballad form. What are the characteristics of this poem? Now we see some characteristics of this poem. First one, the combination of dialogue and a narration. This poem is written in a dialogue and narration form. It is a story. We find this is a poem. We find a story of ancient sailor, which is find in a dialogue or in a narrative form of his voyage on a sea. Second character of this poem is four line stanzas. As already we had seen, the four line stanzas A B C B or A B A B, such type of a quartet or quartets we find in this poem. Next character in this poem is a repetition. We find a repetition of words, repetition of a sentence in this poem. The use of alliteration is maximum in this poem, so it is one of the characteristics. There are a rhyming pattern is a internal because major rhyme pattern we find AB, CB or AB, AB, but we find here internal rhyme pattern also. And what is the theme? Theme of this poem is the travel and wandering. Travel on a sea and wandering various aspects in the traveling. This is the theme written in the poem. So we understand some characteristics, the rhyming pattern of this poem. So now we start actual poem. Poem is begins with the conversation or the dialogue because it is a started with the combination of a dialogue. So the dialogue or the communication, the main hero of our poem is ancient mariner who was communicate and narrate his own voyage. Here the poem begins with the ancient mariner, which is our major character, main character. It is a main character. He stopped one of the three wedding guests with his mesmerizing look because his eyes are very mesmerizing. So the ancient mariner who narrate or communicate or tell his own experience to others means he stopped the three wedding guests. And the bride entered the hall as red as rose and the wedding begins. Now the bride entered in the hall and the wedding began. So the wedding guest started listening the mariner's story because previously the ancient mariner stopped to the wedding guest, and so now the mariner's story listening by the wedding guest. He had no other choice. So the ancient mariner began his story. Our ship left from the port and now the journey started. So everyone were in the mood, in a very good mood. So we sail out to watch the church, and now they start their journey. Each and every member of a ship is in very good mood. So they watch the church, watch the hills and the town, the lighthouse, and so on. All things watched by the members of a ship. But after some time, a storm struck to the ship, and suddenly a storm struck to the ship, and the storm chased the ship like the dreadful enemy to Antarctica, and the bad event is started. The storm chased, and it works as an enemy, so the ship turned towards the Antarctica. And so the ancient mariner expressed his view. We start to see huge iceberg that look green into a clear water. Our ship got lost in iceberg. So our ship lost in iceberg by the dreadful air, dreadful enemy, which turns us towards the Antarctica, means towards the huge iceberg. So we lost in the iceberg. So students, there were no people or animal in sight, and all the ancient mariner and his all sailors maybe fear themselves. That time the albatross bird appeared. It is a good omen for themselves. So the sailors were happy to see another living creature except them. So they were happy. And now they hailed in the God's name, and they got the energy themselves. The ice that had tapped them split wide enough apart for the ship to sail through. And now all their problem is solved with the help of Albatross bird. It is a good omen for them. The sailor feeds the bird and started following them. And now the bird followed the ship. But the ancient mariner inhospitality and killed the pious bird for good omen. The albatross then says a good omen, but ancient mariner killed him. Everyone on the ship went against the mariner. The weather suddenly improved, the fog and mist went away. The sailor began to blame the bird for the past condition. The weather started becoming dreadful, the wind stopped. And when the ancient mariner killed the albatross bird, that time everyone on the ship against the mariner. But the atmosphere is suddenly improved. The weather is suddenly improved. The fog in the sea, the meats in the sea went away. So all sailors began to blame the bird for the past condition, past bad condition. Now the weather started becoming dreadful and wind stopped. The atmosphere cleared, their journey started. Now the sun shone very brightly. Everyone felt very thirsty but couldn't find water. They felt that they were going to die. And now every person on a ship, they will make thirsty because the atmosphere is very hot. But they have no water. The ocean, even as deep 9 fathoms, started drought from the dryness. They have a journey on a sea, but the water of a sea is not drinkable for them because it is a salty water. So they have suffered in a thirsty mood. The ship stood still as a painted steep and painted ocean. And now the water surface turned slimy and gross. Slimy creatures start to appear, and now the atmosphere is just changed. And slimy atmosphere is created. About the real and drought, the dates fire that at night. And now the death fire. So the water like a witch oil. They do not got the water. Burn green and blue. The color is water is changed. They thought it is a witch oil. It is a burn green and blue. And the mariners blame the ancient mariner for the change. As a punishment of a dread, Albatross was hung around his neck. So the all sailors they give the punishment to the ancient mariner. They put the dead Albatross and hung around the neck of an ancient mariner. Now the ancient mariner saw the sail coming towards them, but his mouth was too dry to utter even a single word. He is also thirsty, so he can't utter a single word to call the another sail which is coming towards them. It came from the west. The ship came from the west, and the sun was setting in the west. So the ship looked like a skeleton. And now the atmosphere is just changed. The ship looks like the skeleton, like a dead body. He bit his arm and wet his lip with his own blood and shouted. So the one thing done by the ancient mariner, he bit his arm and and put his blood out of and just wet his own lip. And he shouted. He got the some energy by shouting to himself. He shouted the another ship, but it was actually ghost. As the ship approached, the mariner saw the crew consist of the two people, death and the life in death. Death and the life in death. They were playing a dice game, life in death, one suddenly, and everyone on the ship began die. There are two persons on the ship. First one is a death, and second one is a life in death. And suddenly, the life in death won. So the all persons on a ship began to die. They don't make a fuse, but kind just slumber. And now they can't make the fuss themselves. Everyone on the ship, except the ancient mariner, is died. Only one person, ancient mariner, who not died on the ship. All shipmates, all sailors died there. The eyes of the dead sailors intimate terrible curse, which was worse than the curse of a little orphans. The sail went away, and at the night the moon rose again, and the moonlight fell on a ship like a frost. He looked at the water snakes swimming on the shadow of a ship. And now the ancient mariner think himself, he sees something new, and now he looked at the water snakes swimming in the shadow of his ship. So he kind of got excited, watched the snakes. Now his mind is changed. He realized that those Hyda's snakes were kind and beautiful. The snakes looked like a were kind and very beautiful. Without knowing it, he placed the wriggly little creature on his heart. The curse on the mariner broke and Albatross dropped off his neck. Now, the all sailors who put the albatross in his neck, here the albatross is dropped from his neck. Not only can he pray again, but he can also sleep again. Now he pray for the God, pray for help, and he think himself he was sleep again. Exhausted from all endless cursing and dying thirst, he falls asleep. The atmosphere is very tired. So, endless cursing and dying of thirst, he fell also asleep. When he wake up, it's time of a rain. The mariner had all water he needed. So he got the water which he needed. The angels feel the body of the dead sailors. Now the angel entered on a ship and they feel the body of dead sailor which were previously died. The dead sailor rose up amain with a thunder and lightning. The sailors rose up. They looked like zombies and didn't say a word, but all did the jobs they were supposed to do, helping to sell and to ship. The all sailors wake up and they do their job very fluently. They sail the ship towards their point. The spirits float around the ship and sing like a bird. Now they reach their own destiny very soon. Now the ship stopped and then moved with a sudden jerk that made a mariner fall. And now the atmosphere changed. The ship stopped and sudden jerk made of the mariners fall. He heard two voices talking to each other. The first voice was curious while the second voice was knowledgeable. He listened two voices. First one is a curious voice and second one is a knowledgeable voice. They explained how ship was moving with the help of supernatural force, punishing supernatural force, pushing it without wind. And now they thought themselves, there is one supernatural power, supernatural force, which pushing the ship without the wind. The mariner ends up back at the port from which he left long ago. And now he turned towards the port which he left long ago. Now the ocean returned to its normal color. It was a beautiful sight, and naturally the mariner was overjoyed. And now the ocean returned in his original color, normal color. So the mariner was overjoyed. So all the dead men who had come back in life to the sail and the ship went to the back to being a dead and the angels were standing beside their bodies. Now, angels give the power to the each and every sailor. So now they were standing beside their bodies, sailor's body. The mariner saw a boat becoming towards the ship. Now the ancient mariner, he observed there was one ship coming towards him. The ship began sink. Osman and his young crewmate were coming to rescue him. The ancient mariner got on the boat and met a hermit. Hermit is another person whom he want to take help. The ship sank like a lead into the sea. The mariner looked forward to the hermit and clearing away his sins by asking him questions by shivering his soul like the confession. So that time hermit compared everyone to forest. Hermit compared everyone and everything which he knows to the forest. As soon as he told the story to the hermit, he felt a lot of better. To the mariner explained to the wedding guest that he often had this painful feeling that he needed to get the story of the chest and the pain persists until he tells it. So he said that it's much better to walk to church with a friend than to go to the marriage feast. We want to see entire community bow down to the prayer. Now, the wedding guest was totally befuddled. As if he had lost his sense, he waked up the next day as a sadder and a wiser man. Because listening the whole journey of the ancient mariners, now he was a sadder and wiser man. Here we had complete this poem. Thank you. You are listening it very well. Thank you.